Elisa here again with floLIVE. I'm here with Rony, and we're going to chat in this episode about regulatory compliance, what you need to know, and how it can affect your business. So Rony, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Elisa.
All right. Well, let's just dive right in. So let's try that again. Regulatory compliance can be a bit of a daunting topic, right? There are a lot of pieces that go into it. There are a lot of things that you need to know. Some parts are more critical than others. So lots going into this. So tell us a little bit your thoughts about what fleet managers, asset monitoring companies, what do they need to know to be regulatory compliant?
So I guess, first of all, thank you very much. I guess from our point of view, coming at it really from experience that we've had with our own customers over the years, and we've learned through the devices that were required and the sort of type of connectivity, what we do know about the transport and logistics is that there is a lot of regulatory compliance which has been evolving over the past few years. I think Europe on one side and the US on another, but I think there's a few general themes that we see about all of this. And first of all, it starts with things that didn't really start particularly in transport, but sort of driver behavior and the number of hours that a driver can drive, or subsequently when they start driving again. So these are things that, we could, time of sort of driving, etc. So a lot of health requirements and such. But there's other elements as well within sort of keeping things in particular storage environments that are required, locks that are required. So certain goods require certain authorizations, etc. So at the end of the day, I guess in the IoT space, we always try to find solutions for assisting these companies while they're transporting goods. And we've seen a lot of this in sort of, in public safety, for example. This is all to do with how the driver behaves in public safety, but the locks and the sort of, also to mention perhaps cold chain management as well in specific goods, from pharmaceuticals to the food industry, etc. So I think that sort of covers really what we've seen here in Europe. We've also seen that there is a requirement for specific or maintenance quality of the vehicles. So certain, when vehicles today have all that data now electronically available in the vehicle, it means that this data could be pushed out to a central sort of command, and this data really tells the haulage carrier or the operator about the quality of the vehicles, if there's any issues with the maintenance of it. As such, obviously, because these vehicles are on the road all the time, the issue of public safety. So maintaining this at a high quality is very important, and I think these regulations have come into place in the past few years. We've seen a lot of that in Europe as well. I think we've seen various other issues with the data itself because of a lot of privacy regulation. But I think if we sort of split it into a number of areas, I think it's public safety, it's the quality of the vehicles, the driver behavior, and it's the maintenance of the vehicles as well. So all of this has come into some more robust regulations in the past few years, and we've seen that because of the certain devices, etc., and the more complex requirements around maintaining data that's leaving the vehicle constantly.
That's such a good point. And honestly, with the number of, potential fines and restrictions, you can even lose your business license if you're not compliant to some of these elements. That's such a good point to tune into those. And really what you said about the maintenance element, I think that's so important with, being able to move from reactive to predictive there, I think is really going to make a difference.
And definitely the vehicles themselves, as the larger sort of vehicles that move a lot of cargo. I think we've seen a lot of that data now becoming available, and and the vehicle's sort of predicting it. I think we've seen it all in modern cars as well, when it tells you need to go for a maintenance check. But when this is sort of, if the driver doesn't tell anybody about this, then they won't know. But right now data is being sort of communicated to sort of the vehicle managers, etc. And I think all of that is predefined. So there's less chances of a vehicle being sort of not roadworthy and then, driving down the motorway. Sort of, and I think that's what the regulations has come to solve. And I think in general there's a lot less accidents in this respect. The data shows that the regulation has enhanced the quality of the vehicles as well as the driver behavior. So I think that's all worked out pretty well for the industry.
Agreed. So you mentioned a couple of times about data. So that makes me think about, some of those data compliance regulations like GDPR, data sovereignty. So what are you seeing in those spaces that are causing some concerns, and how do you think they can be addressed?
So I don't think there are concerns, but I mean, in general, sort of privacy has been a big topic, especially in sort of in financial sectors and point of sale. But specifically, when we're talking about the transport, logistics, shipping, I think there is some data sovereignty around, around where that vehicle is. Is it supposed to be there? And particularly with the type of sort of environment that you've created around them, the certain locks that can only be opened by certain people, etc. So, the data of these people, who they are, the companies, etc. All of that has, and it's a varied, topic. There's no, we can't go through each and every regulation in each and every type, but the general theme is that you need to, in most cases, or the harshest theme is that the data cannot leave the country, or in particular, perhaps in the EU, data can reside within the EU in certain countries, etc. But so I think the general theme is that data needs to reside within that country, and then obviously there's a complexity, or where the origination of the cargo is, or where the target customer is, the delivery. Again, for various industries, there's various regulations there. I think the main challenge, as you mentioned before, is the fact that we don't, these in Europe, for example, you're crossing between countries which are completely sovereign, although they're all part of the EU. They have various regulations. Certain industries within the EU are also subject to specific regulation. I know that the food industry is heavily regulated in that, the medicine, all that medical industry when you're shipping pharmaceuticals. So I think all of that is extremely regulated. Obviously with pharmaceuticals, there's the issue of losing them. It's not just about losing them. Now you're in a certain area. If somebody gets hold of them, it's not a good environment to have. So I think when they're moving between countries, I think that's where the challenge starts. And we need to, and as an industry, on the communication side, we've helped build solutions for that. So, residing that data in a specific country, etc. I think we can talk more about that if you wish as well.
Yes, that was going to be my next question. Yeah, good lead in. So tell us about that data localization. How are we able to address that in a way that you're compliant, but also in a way that's not going to be exceptionally painful of trying to go, carrier by carrier, provider by provider?
So typically, as most of the IoT connectivity sector is aware, a lot of what we've been doing till now has been using roaming. And with roaming, the main issue is that we almost backhaul the data to the original carrier that provided the connectivity, provided that SIM that's in that device. And in most cases now, we see that that's not an option anymore. We've seen this in the financial sector, as I mentioned, with point-of-sale devices. We've seen it in many other industries. The requirements, we see the car industry is a very good example of that as well. So the data localization means that the data needs to, or at least specific elements of the data, needs to reside within the country where the vehicle is and those goods are. In this case, we have, on top of having a compliance as sort of in the auto industry, we have sort of the cargo element of it as well. So whatever you're shipping, and it could be pharmaceutical or food industry that has specific regulation, as well as the vehicle regulations. And solving that is the only way to do it is really to present local packet gateway. So local termination of the data within that country, and store it within the country, or at least deliver it to the right cloud environment within that sort of within that jurisdiction. And I think that comes down, when you mentioned before, data sovereignty. In specific industries, the data sovereignty is there. That means that the country has, it's not the privacy element of it, is that the country has specific requirements that they don't want that data leaving the country. They don't want financial transactions being transversed across the globe. Even within the EU, there are specific regulations about that. Again, the pharmaceutical industry is very tight about these things as well. And also the companies themselves. So the companies themselves may not want information about their cargo and shipments and specific products on there, transversing data that could be vulnerable. So from a regulation point of view, I think that we have, both the cargo products itself, the sectors that they're shipping, as well as the actual vehicle data. That we've seen that in the auto industry, where there's a heavy requirement to keep that data within the country. So we've done that. We're constantly building out more and more of these as the requirements grow in specific countries. And I think on top of this giving a much better quality of service, the ping time is lower, the latency, everything's getting a lot better when you're terminating data locally, as well as there's a lot less points of failure along the way, because the points of failure before are a single point of failure, whereas now your distributed architecture, it's a much better environment for our customers to sort of get back that data into their ERP systems or their management systems.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Makes sense.
It does. And we would be remiss and wouldn't be floLIVE if we didn't take a minute to, hone in on what you said in regard to roaming, and how we like to say that roaming is dead. But here at floLIVE, we're able to help our customers work around those scenarios. So I think there's a lot of interesting elements there.
I think as a mission, we've done this at floLIVE, where perhaps we initially never chased just the customer, but we've built out the infrastructure a lot before we sort of tried to find solutions at any cost. And I think, on that topic, we've built a lot of infrastructure around the world, 40 or so points of presence globally where we terminate data locally. We're a lot of countries where there's really stringent regulations. We've branched out there and built the infrastructure, opened up, done the work with the regulators, etc., whether it's Brazil or Turkey or other places. But also, as a whole, global companies are, I always said that MNOs are local and IoT is global. So I think it's correct now, like it's ever been, if not more. I mean, you have trucks that are driving up and down, in Africa, 50 countries or so across Africa. I don't say that we cover them all locally, but we definitely cover east, west, and south. And it's, specifically, I'll give the example in Africa. The internet's provided by 3 different cable systems, and whether you're down south or or east, you're using one cable system that's connecting it to the internet, and if you're sort of in the west, you're using a different cable system. So I think, being with all these points of presence and providing them and built them out, and we have an entire team that really builds out continuously infrastructure as our customers grow. I think that's given us a very strong element to provide really I'd say a high performance network. I would call it. I think we're global customers, when they tried to, or when they attempted to build out specific operator by operator, the complexity became unmanageable, I would say, because of the commercial relationships, the agreements, the various billing sort of increments were different. The contract started and ended at different times. So all of that is really taken away now. Always local operators, always the aim is to terminate the data as close as we can to where the data needs to be and in country. That really wraps the whole thing up together. Specifically today, we're talking about the transport and logistics. I think one of our biggest sectors, perhaps, or one of our leading sectors, I would say, and we have a lot of customers there. And I think that's growing as well. And perhaps one thing that came to mind right now is I think we've seen a big growth in that industry because of the sort of 3G sunset as well. And a lot of perhaps, connectivity inside sort of trucks, although was there for some of the elements that we still have today. And we had 2G and 3G sort of modules there. But when the 3G sunset came, even sort of now across Europe where we're seeing it now, I think all those devices with new modules, and then suddenly there's a lot more opportunity to connect various elements from cold chain management to certain locks and security cameras and alerts and driver behavior and maintenance, etc. So all of that is becoming like a mini LAN that's constantly transmitting data to various elements. Some of that data, as we said, has to reside in country or, partial to certain regulation. So I hope that sort of gives a bit of a flavor. Again, saying all of this, perhaps we're not transport experts, but we've seen this and we've worked with our customers on the connectivity elements of that and sort of seen their challenges.
For sure. Well, Rony, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. So next episode is going to wrap up our series. We're going to delve a little closer into the different types of connectivity, spend some time with Bill Wark talking about EUICC. So that's going to be a great conversation. So hopefully we'll be able to join, tune in and listen as well. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.